This is a CBS News special report. I'm Jeff Glow reporting from CBS News headquarters in New York. Good evening. The president is expected to make a statement about Syria momentarily. He and U.S. allies have been considering a response to an apparent chemical attack on civilians by the Assad regime that took place earlier this week. The debate has been going on now for days about exactly how and when any strike would happen. An investigation has been ongoing into how the chemical attack was carried out and what chemicals were involved just outside Damascus. The U.S. has been discussing this and how to respond with Britain, France, and other allies. Russia claims the attack was staged. They pointed a finger of blame toward Britain. This would be the second strike on Syria potentially authorized by President Trump in response to a chemical weapons attack. Again, you're looking at a live picture right now of the diplomatic room at the White House. According to our David Martin, the challenge in this strike, if one happens, is to hit Syrian targets and not Russian forces, which could dramatically escalate the conflict in Syria. Syria has been, as far as we know, dispersing forces and equipment, large portions of which may have been brought to the airport in Damascus, which has taken place in the past, which likely would not be targeted to avoid civilian casualties. This evening, the vice president, who is in Lima, Peru, at the Summit of the Americas, rushed back to his hotel just a short time ago in advance of this anticipated action. The president was scheduled to go to the Summit of the Americas. He canceled that to debate what he's about to talk to tonight.
My fellow Americans, a short time ago, I ordered the United States Armed Forces to launch precision strikes on targets associated with the chemical weapons capabilities of Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad. A combined operation with the armed forces of France and the United Kingdom is now underway. We thank them both. Tonight, I want to speak with you about why we have taken this action. 1 year ago, Assad launched a savage chemical weapons attack against his own innocent people. The United States responded with 58 missile strikes that destroyed 20% of the Syrian Air Force. Last Saturday, the Assad regime again deployed chemical weapons to slaughter innocent civilians, this time in the town of Douma, near the Syrian capital of Damascus. This massacre was a significant escalation in a pattern of chemical weapons use by that very terrible regime. The evil and the despicable attack left mothers and fathers, infants and children thrashing in pain and gasping for air. These are not the actions of a man. They are crimes of a monster instead. Following the horrors of World War I a century ago, civilized nations joined together to ban chemical warfare. Chemical weapons are uniquely dangerous, not only because they inflict gruesome suffering, but because even small amounts can unleash widespread devastation. The purpose of our actions tonight is to establish a strong deterrent against the production, spread, and use of chemical weapons. Establishing this deterrent is a vital national security interest of the United States. The combined American, British, and French response to these atrocities will integrate all instruments of our national power, military, economic, and diplomatic. We are prepared to sustain this response until the Syrian regime stops its use of prohibited chemical agents. I also have a message tonight for the governments most responsible for supporting, equipping, and financing the criminal Assad regime. To Iran and Russia, I ask, what kind of a nation wants to be associated with the mass murder of innocent men, women, and children? The nations of the world can be judged by the friends they keep. no nation can succeed in the long run by promoting rogue states, brutal tyrants, and murderous dictators. In 2013, President Putin and his government promised the world that they would guarantee the elimination of Syria's chemical weapons. Assad's recent attack and today's response are the direct result of Russia's failure to keep that promise. Russia must decide if it will continue down this dark path or if it will join civilized nations as a force for stability and peace. Hopefully someday we'll go along with Russia, maybe Iran, but maybe not. I will say this, the United States has a lot to offer. The greatest and most powerful economy in the history of the world. In Syria, the United States, with but a small force being used to eliminate what is left of ISIS, is doing what is necessary to protect the American people. Over the last year, nearly 100% of the territory once controlled by the so-called ISIS Caliphate in Syria and Iraq has been liberated and eliminated. The United States has also rebuilt our friendships across the Middle East. We have asked our partners to take greater responsibility for securing their home region, including contributing large amounts of money for the resources, equipment, and all of the anti-ISIS effort. Increased engagement from our friends, including Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Egypt, and others, can ensure that Iran does not profit from the eradication of ISIS. America does not seek an indefinite presence in Syria under no circumstances. As other nations step up their contributions, we look forward to the day when we can bring our warriors home. Great warriors they are. Looking around our very troubled world, Americans have illusions. We will not purge the world of evil or act everywhere there is tyranny. No amount of American blood or treasure can produce lasting peace and security in the Middle East. It's a troubled place. We will try to make it better, but it is a troubled place. The United States will be a partner and a friend, but the fate of the region lies in the hands of its own people. In the last century, we looked straight into the darkest places of the human soul. We saw the anguish that can be unleashed and the evil that can take hold. By the end of World War I, more than 1 million people had been killed or injured by chemical weapons. We never want to see that ghastly specter return. So today, the nations of Britain, France, and the United States of America have marshaled their righteous power against barbarism and brutality. Tonight, I ask all Americans to say a prayer for our noble warriors and our allies as they carry out their missions. We pray that God will bring comfort to those suffering in Syria. We pray that God will guide the whole region toward a future of dignity and of peace. And we pray that God will continue to watch over and bless the United States of America. Thank you. Good night. Thank you.
The President addresses the nation this evening, announcing that precision strikes have been ordered in Syria in response to chemical attacks from the Assad regime. Strikes have been ordered in conjunction with France and Great Britain. The president called Bashar al-Assad evil and despicable, said this will continue until chemical attacks stop. He also directly challenged both Russia and Iran. David Martin is at the Pentagon, has been reporting on what these strikes would entail all week. David, what did you make of what the president said?
Well, Jeff, he told us a specific type of target these precision strikes going after, which were Syria's chemical weapons capability. Now, that could be everything from the aircraft that drop chemical weapons to the headquarters that control the forces that drop the chemical weapons. It probably does not include the weapons themselves, because if you strike a place where the weapons are stored, you risk setting off a plume that can spread those fumes over innocent people. But there had been a lot of talk about what targets the U.S. would go after. Would they go after Iranian targets? Would they perhaps even go after the Russian-operated air defenses? He seems to have said no to those and gone after a specific category of targets, these chemical weapons capabilities.
All right, David Martin at the Pentagon, thank you. We're going to move now to Seth Doane, who is in Syria, in Damascus tonight. Seth, what are you seeing and hearing? All right, we just lost Seth Doane. Can tell from what's been telling us, hearing explosions outside Damascus this evening, as again the president has ordered these precision strikes inside Syria this evening. Much more about all of this on your local news on this CBS station, on our 24-hour streaming news service, CBSN, and for some of you in the West on the CBS Evening News. For many of you now, CBS primetime programming continues in just a moment. I'm Jeff, CBS News.
For news 24 hours a day, go to cbsnews.com.